Welcome all. In the previous class, we had discussed about the process of heat transfer in the atmosphere, heat budget and temperature. Next we discuss the factors influencing the distribution of temperature. What are the factors influencing the distribution of temperature on Earth? There are 4 factors influencing the temperature on Earth. Latitude, altitude, nearness of ocean, winds. Latitude, altitude, nearness of ocean and winds. These are the 4 factors influencing the distribution of temperature on Earth. Then first factor, latitude. The latitudinal locations influences the distribution of temperature on Earth. In your previous classes, you studied the different latitudinal, important latitudinal lines. Which are the important latitudinal lines? 0 degree equator, 23.5 degree north, Tropic of Cancer, 23.5 degree south, Tropic of Capricorn, 66.5 degree north, Arctic Circle, 66.5 degree south, Antarctic Circle, 90 degree North Pole and 90 degree South Pole. And this location of latitudinal lines, it varies, it influences the distribution of temperature on Earth. Then sunrise vertically falls on the equatorial region. Sunrise vertically falls on the equatorial region. And here the temperature is very higher in these regions, equatorial regions. What about the polar regions? The sunrays have to travel more through the atmosphere to reach polar regions. That is why there may be the chance to the more energy loss. Here, that is why the temperature is low in polar regions. Now look at the picture. All of you look at the picture. In this picture, you can see the important latitudinal lines and the regions the region receives more energy as the sunrays are almost vertical. The sunrise vertically falls on this equatorial region. Here the temperature is very high and the pole region receives extremely slanting rays of the sun. The sun rays have to travel more through the atmosphere owing to the inclination. Okay. The next factor. Next factor is altitude. How the altitude influences the distribution of temperature. The temperature is comparatively lower at places which is situated above the sea level. Temperature is comparatively lower the places which is situated above the sea level. For example, Idukki and Wayanad. These places here the temperature is low because these places which are situated above the sea level, and besides these places, Idukki and Wayanad, these places lie in Western Ghats. And what is the speciality of Western Ghats? Here have more mountains and hills. These are the reasons. Here the temperature is extremely cool climate here. The temperature is very low. Then another factor is that influencing the distribution of temperature is that nearness to oceans. Nearness of oceans. The temperature is higher. The range of temperature is higher at places away from the oceans. The temperature is higher. The range of temperature is higher at places away from the sea oceans. And the temperature is moderate the places in which close to the sea. What is the reason of it? The reason is that the heating of land, it causes the wind blow from ocean to land. The heating of land causes the wind blow from sea to land. And the cooling of land, it causes the wind blow from land to seas. Thus, there maintain moderate equal climate is there. Okay, it is the third factor which influence the distribution of temperature on earth, nearness of ocean. The next factor is that winds. The winds, the cold and warm winds, it raise and lower the temperature of the places through which they pass. The warm and cold wind, it raise and respectively raise and lower the temperature of the places through which they pass. For to understand, all of you look at the news headlines. Look at it. Hot wind in Delhi. Many sunburned. Palakkad burns. Hot wind from Tamil Nadu. Cold wind, snowfall in the valley. By observing these news headlines, we can understand that the warm and the cold winds can respectively raise and or lower the temperature of the places through which they pass. The warm and the cold winds can respectively raise or lower the temperature of the places through which they pass. Okay. Next is that global distribution of temperature. Global distribution of temperature. All of you look at the picture. In this picture, the smooth curved lines represent the temperature recorded at different places throughout the earth surface. What are these lines called? These lines are isotherms. Then here is a question that isotherms in the southern hemisphere are almost parallel to the equator compared to those in the northern hemisphere. Why? Isotherms in the southern hemisphere are almost parallel to the equator compared to those in the northern hemisphere. Why? What is the reason of it? In this picture, you can see that the northern hemisphere here has maximum land masses. Comparing with the southern hemisphere, northern hemisphere has maximum land masses. Then there is a differential heating of, there occurred the differential heating of land and water. That is why in northern hemisphere the isotherms are in curved lines. But in southern hemisphere here are fully oceans. That is why the southern hemisphere the isotherms are in parallel to equator. Okay. And next is that water in atmosphere. Water content reaches on atmosphere. You know that water content reaches on atmosphere. This water content in the atmosphere is called humidity. What is meant by humidity? The water content in the atmosphere is known as humidity. Is the humidity same in all places? Is humidity same? No. Humidity varies in accordance with time and place. Then what are the factors influencing the amount of moisture in the atmosphere? What are the factors influencing the amount of moisture in the atmosphere? How the water content it reaches on the atmosphere? What are the factors influencing it? The first factor is that temperature. Then second factor is that nearness of ocean. Third factor is that availability of water. These are the three factors which influence the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. And next is that the difference between absolute humidity and relative humidity. What is known as absolute humidity and what is known as relative humidity? The actual amount of water present in the atmosphere. The actual amount of water present in the atmosphere is known as absolute humidity. And this absolute humidity measured as the amount of water vapor present per cubic meter volume of air. The absolute humidity measured as the amount of water vapor present per cubic meter volume of air. And what is mean by saturation level? Saturation level, the stage at which the atmosphere is fully saturated with water. The atmosphere, the stage at which the atmosphere is fully saturated with water is known as saturation level. And this atmosphere, when the atmosphere becomes saturated, condensation begins. Then what is known as relative humidity? The relative humidity is that the ratio between the amount of water vapor in the atmosphere and the total water holding capacity of the atmosphere at a particular time. The ratio between the amount of water vapor in the atmosphere and the total water holding capacity of the atmosphere at a given temperature. It is known as relative humidity. For to understand, all of you see it, all of you look at it. Relative humidity is equal to absolute humidity divided by total water holding capacity of the atmosphere into 100. For example, if the absolute humidity is half of the total water holding capacity at a particular temperature, then the relative humidity will be 50%. If the absolute humidity is half of the total water holding capacity at a particular temperature, then the relative humidity will be 50%. Okay, it is the ratio between the amount of water vapor present in the atmosphere and total water holding capacity of the atmosphere at a given temperature. Okay. Then next is that forms of condensation. Forms of condensation. Here are the 4 forms of condensation. First is that frost. Then second form is that mist or fog. Then third, dew and cloud. These are the different forms of condensation. Okay. In this chapter, today we studied the factors influencing the distribution of temperature. 4 factors influencing the distribution of temperature and the global distribution of temperature, then water in the atmosphere, humidity, then the difference between absolute humidity and relative humidity. Okay. Then questions, assignment, activities in this chapter. All of you write the first question. All of you write the first question in your notebook. Explain how latitudinal location influences distribution of temperature on Earth. Explain how latitudinal location influences distribution of temperature on Earth. Second question. The isotherms in the northern hemisphere are more curved, while those in the southern hemisphere are almost parallel to the equator. Why? The isotherms in northern hemisphere are more curved, while those in the southern hemisphere are almost parallel to the equator. Why? Third question. Third question. Write the difference between relative humidity and absolute humidity. Write the difference between relative humidity and absolute humidity. Then next question. Next question is that describe the factors influencing the distribution of temperature on the surface of the Earth. Describe the factors influencing the distribution of temperature on the surface of the Earth. Okay. In this previous class, I had given 3 questions, activities. I hope all of you have completed this homework. Okay. Then thank you all.